Howdy, everybody. This is Attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I'm here to go ahead and run some questions with you for your upcoming hearing. We're going to be doing hearing questions for Social Security disability benefits in the form of SSI and SSDI-based questions. All right. Now, most people are not joined on yet. I was having some technical as we move the entire account over to a brand account. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and wait for the phone to start ringing. Let's see. And let's see. Okay, perfect. So in the meantime, what we're going to be doing in the future is we're going to take all the questions that you have that the assistant, Cheyenne, can't go ahead and answer, like on the spot. She's going to put them into a list. And then when I'm not on the phone with people, running questions with people, I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions with you. So that way, if you were part of a prior video, if you come back the next time in between videos, I'll likely be answering your question. Okay. So I see we've got a couple people joining now. There you go. Live the dream. Live the dream. Nice. There we go. I'm going to give you guys the number to go ahead and call so that basically we can go ahead and begin the process of running hearing questions for claimants who have upcoming administrative law judge hearings. It doesn't need to be a situation either where you have a hearing that's in a month, 2 months, 3 months. It can be anybody. You could be just filing right now. You could be thinking about filing for disability benefits. This is from basically the situation of me joining you to go ahead and teach you about the trick questions that the ALJs use. I do not want this to be a thing where you feel down or tired or whatever from the communication. I want this to be a learning experience for you. As we go through, I'm going to try and make more of a focus for these questions to be specific to your impairments. I was doing more general impairments before, but basically at this point, I think it's more important for me to hit the direct impairments specific to the listings that are relevant to your particular claim. Here's why. A lot of you guys are wondering, okay, well, how do I prove my disability benefits, right? How do I show that I'm impaired? How do I show, I got two doggies. How do I show that I have limitations that are truly significant in my ability to go ahead and function in the national economy in order to do the DOT job? That's what I want to focus on, is showing you guys specifically where the limitations are, why you can't do things, etc. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. All right, so once again, guys, next week on Thursday, 8 to 10. I know we started a few minutes late here. I had to switch some things. We're now in a brand account, a little, yada, yada. Next week, we're going to make a list of the questions that you asked that I didn't get a chance to answer in this little bio area. And I'm going to go ahead and answer them during this portion. In the meantime, I want to take a moment to basically go ahead and talk about what's changed due to COVID-19 with these hearings. I want to go ahead and structure that as to specifically with initial filings, DDS rulings, and then administrative law judge rulings. Okay, so how has COVID-19 changed everything? Well, the obvious thing is that, I'm sorry I'm in a squeaky chair. I've got to fix it at some point. The obvious thing is that COVID-19, the SSA has made it illegal for anybody other than, the administrative staff, the judges, some of the clerical people to go ahead and go to those offices. The average American can't go to forms, which most people don't know how to do because they're kind of all over the place. Or you need to go online and file basically through the online process. What I do with my claimants is I have them fill out the forms and then I review them and go over answers with them to make sure that they make accurate answers that they can't thereafter use by the administrative law judge or the DDS reps to say, oh, they're not disabled because they said they like rock music and they like going to concerts, even though they don't go to concerts anymore and they can't listen to rock music because they have tinnitus, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so the next thing is this. How does it change the whole DDS adjudication thing? All right, so a lot of you guys know that when you file, kind of the baby judges, the judges that are directly, after you file, right? The DDS, disability determination judges. Those little baby judges basically cannot send you to CEs right now. If you're not sure what a CE is, it's a consultative examination. It's a medical appointment set up by the SSA. That's all it is. They've got an ME there. That's the medical expert. They review you. Are they pro SSA? They're super pro SSA. But the bottom line is, they can't send you to medical experts right now. Okay, so what does that mean? Since they can't send you to medical experts right now, they can't do a traditional full adjudication. What can they do? They can use MCs. MCs are medical consultants. Okay, so what is a medical consultant versus a medical expert? A medical consultant at the DDS level is an individual that can review all the paperwork. It's a non-seeing physician, and a medical expert is a medical expert, is a medical, a physician, usually a specialist in some range, that basically actually physically sees you. Now, when they physically see you, though, it's one of those situations where they see you for 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's very unfair, and people are super unhappy about them. Like if you look up how do I deal with consultative examinations, you'll see half the videos up there about how biased they are. All right, so let me put the number up there again so we can get somebody calling in. Go ahead and run hearing questions with that person for their impairment. Howdy from Tennessee. Awesome. Howdy from Florida. So, okay. What do you need to know? Basically, and let me make sure our assistant is in with us. We are good. Let's see. Okay. All right. So what does this mean? It means that DDS can't go ahead and send you to consultative examination medical experts. That's not good, because that means that the doctors that they would send you to when you didn't have enough medical evidence, they're not using them right now because they've completely closed their doors. What does that mean? It means that basically if you don't have a lot of medical evidence going into your initial application for disability benefits, the problem is with COVID-19 or the coronavirus, they can't do a proper adjudication because they can't have these doctors present. So that's tough. That's a tricky situation. So that means that all the people that are filing now a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago even, those individuals basically can't go ahead and get through the DDS section with a proper adjudication, meaning that they get sent to the medical expert on behalf of DDS. That's how DDS is affected. So we've gone over how is the initial filing affected. We've gone over how is DDS affected. We are now going to go over basically how the administrative law judge hearings are different because of the COVID-19 situation. With the coronavirus and disability hearings, the only changes are the following. Well, there's more to it, but we'll start with the easy ones. First and foremost, all the hearings are going telephonic pretty much across the country. There are a few that have been canceled. They're trying to figure out what they were going to be doing, but all the hearings at this point have been, put into a telephonic stage. If you have 5 people on the phone line, it cuts out all the time. If you have only 4 people on the phone line, the system seems to be doing a lot better. The other thing is this. Some of the judges will be using their phone in the sense of whatchamacallit. I'm just reading a message real quick. Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So now we've got other people joining. We were able to get it to work. We weren't able to get it to work initially. All right, so first and foremost, the hearing is going to be telephonic. There's usually 4 people, 4 different phones. They all link into a system. Who connects you all? It's the clerk of the judge. The judge will call you. Okay, the judge will say, let me get the judge on the phone. Let me get the, the vocational expert on the phone. Let me get your attorney on the phone, blah, blah, blah. They'll all join you to a chat session. Once you're in the chat session, the new things are, number 1, the judge will say, hey, guess what? This is the only recording, right? The judge will say, there's only one recording allowed. There's no other recordings allowed, yada, yada, yada. If you're recording, you're not allowed to record. So are you recording? No. Okay, then we can put yourself into another room. You have to be away from other people. And that's because this whole process is supposed to be not a secret. It's just supposed to be for your privacy rights, private to you. Okay, but here's the side thing. Here's what the judge is really doing. The judge is making sure that he's the only one recording it and nobody else is listening in, because when the judge goes off record for something, if the judge says something, if you don't know what goes off record, it means they just press the little, record button off. And what that means, that basically they're not recording the hearing anymore. In a more administrative functional sense, it means that, good, Cheyenne's on, perfect. Cheyenne's going to be helping us, guys, just like the other videos. We didn't think we'd be able to get it at first going, but now we got it up, and that's because when we first looked at this, it said you have to wait 24 hours to go ahead and yada yada, since we switched over to a brand account. Okay, cool. So what happens is the judge doesn't want you to be recording that hearing purely because the judge is a little bit worried about what the judge might say when we're off the record. So when the judge says, hey, I only want this to go ahead and be, me, the person recording it. What he's really saying is, I don't want you to record the things I'm saying off record. Because if I ask you how your day is going or this, all that stuff can be a potential negative for you and could be a potential negative for the judge as well. Okay. So is it a good thing that the judge will sometimes go off record and you don't have a recording of it? It's fine. It's part of the usual process. It's not a big deal. If you want to say, I want to make my own recording, you can submit that to the court ahead of time, but you better believe that judge, the moment they answer the phone, is going to be super professional, and they're not going to take any moments where they go off the record. Also, the judge will be a little bit, I don't want to be scared, but they'll be a little bit like, what's going on here with that hearing? Because it makes a judge worry. Why would a claimant want to record the hearing on their own when we create a recording on our own? Okay, so that's the first big thing the judge will say. Recording is all me. I'm recording. Nobody else can make a recording. It's for your privacy rights. When in reality, the judge just doesn't want to go ahead and have you recording what the judge might say off the record. Okay, so the next thing that I want to go through is basically the judge will talk about separating yourself from everybody else. And the judge will do that in two ways. So go to way one, which is you have to separate yourself from everybody else. So go in a separate room. I have claimants that literally go into a bathroom. I have claimants that go into a separate room. But remember, sometimes claimants need to have third-party, individuals with them, like a sister, a brother, a kid, a mother, whatever. Or they might not even have a phone of their own. So they'll have to have somebody there with them to make sure that the phone is there, it's working properly, etc. So in that case, it's important because what happens is, basically the judge will be saying, hey, I only want the claimant on the phone, but you, the claimant, if you're represented by yourself, will have to notify the judge, well, I need this person with me, and you better have a good reason why they should be there. Or your attorney will go ahead and notify them ahead of time. The judge will have a chance to get used to the idea, and then boom, you'll move forward. One thing I cannot overstate any of these things is this. When it comes to judges, it's super important to get them used to the idea of something that you want done ahead of time. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So let's say that you want the judge to do something, right? And it's not something crazy. It's not out of the, you're motioning basically for the judge to do something. A lot of times it's better to approach the hearing where I'm just going to fix this camera a little bit. A lot of times it's better for you to approach the hearing where you ask that judge ahead of time what you would like the judge to do and give the reasoning for it. Because if you don't get the judge used to it, they can sometimes be very cranky at the hearing when you start throwing things on their plate that they didn't plan for the hearing. Okay, so remember, judges tend to like to run their hearings a very specific way. Okay, some judges are cranky about how they handle particular things. One judge, it took me 3 years to get onto his better side again because I was late once. Okay? Car had a failure. It was a whole big thing. It was a Prius thing. It was the electrical battery system. There's an orange plug behind the back seat that came unclipped and yada yada somehow. Wasn't like I was bahaing through Bithlow, but the bottom line is it came unclipped. It took me 3 years to get back into the good graces of that judge. So attorneys kind of have it bad in that particular regard. Some judges will be mean and they'll have known me for 10 years, right? And they'll go ahead and they'll mispronounce my name if they're in a crabby mood. So it's really important to ahead of time get a judge used to something that you might want that's unique to the structure of the hearing. So if you get anything from the following 2 hour of video, it's to motion to the judge. You don't even really have to motion. Just get a 795 statement of claimant and specifically. Oh, I can see the connection's not good. Oh, connection's back. When you mail it to the hearing office, like something that you want done, that's good. But make sure you send it specifically to that judge. Because if you send it specifically to that judge, only if you put for the judge's eyes only, will it go specifically to that judge. Otherwise, it will go to the clerk to the judge. The clerk will open it, review it, and then go ahead and put it into the system. Make sure you put it specific to that judge. If you don't, everything gets lost. It has to go to the specific person who needs it specifically, blah, 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 for that particular claim. And you got to put identifying markers on there. It can't just be your birthday. We're talking case number, or more realistically, what everybody uses, social security number. Okay, so here's the other thing that you need to know about it. If you're going to be faxing a document into the hearing office, remember, like if you want to motion the judge to do something, Your Honor, I want to make my own recording. Your Honor, I want to go ahead and do this. Your Honor, I want my own opening statement, blah, 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 whatever. You want to do something that's unique. That's not usual for a claimant to do. If you want to do something that's unique and you want to go ahead and fax it into the hearing to say, hey, Your Honor, I'd like to do this. Keep in mind, the judge may reject whatever you want to do. Keep in mind, the judge may reject whatever you want to do. I know a lot of you guys are like, I'm going to my hearing, and this is my hearing. I'm going to do what I want to do at my hearing. Unfortunately, and I love you all dearly, that is not how this system works. The way this system works is the judge will dictate basically what's going to happen throughout the process of this whole thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep working through this. All right, so we've talked about faxing things in. Let me tell you the little trick though. When it comes to basically faxing something in, there's a barcode line and there's a no barcode line. If you have an OHO hearing barcode, send it through there, the machine will automatically suck it into the system. That's a bueno. However, sometimes the person won't actually look at it then. They'll just see that it went into the system and then boop, they'll get rid of it. That can be a problem because then if you requested something that had to be done before the hearing, they ain't going to do anything with it, right? Because it just went into the system. Somebody at some point will look at it. If you fax it to the non-barcode line, right, because you didn't have an OHO barcode, somebody's got to pick it up, look at it, and do something with it. So I'm just checking my phone to see. Okay, now remember, guys, the whole purpose of this structure is to do hearing questions for you. So if you want to call in and ask me hearing questions, and I'll run the hearing questions with you, that's fine. That's totally acceptable. All right, so let's see. Now, we've covered a couple of things about how the coronavirus has altered, changed, affected how these disability hearings are happening. We talked about how the judge is the only one who can make a recording. We've talked about how you have to separate yourself in a specific room so that basically, you're away from everybody. We've talked about, motioning to the judge ahead of time, get the judge used to things that you might want that are unique to the situation. So we've gone through those basic functions. Now, as you go through this, if you are not represented, if you do not have an attorney, what's going to be a little rough for you is basically you have nobody to cross-examine on your behalf, which is tricky. That's not good. That's a problem. What is cross-examination? That is where, you're sitting there, right? You are the claimant. So let's say I'm the claimant. And let's say that this is the judge. And let's say that, my attorney is over here to my left, although depends on which room we'd be in. So the attorney's over here, right? The judge will ask me a bunch of questions, and the judge will say, okay, attorney so-and-so, do you have any additional questions? That's the cross-examination. That's where the attorney comes in and says, well, yes, I have these questions. Let me ask questions. Here's the kicker with that. If you don't have an attorney, then the judge will ask you all of your questions. And if the judge asks all the questions, then the bad things that you say that you may not realize are bad, there's nobody there to cross-examine it. There's nobody there to change or alter the statements that you've made, okay? All right, good. So now you understand the basics of why cross-examination is important. Now, with this whole coronavirus thing, it's much more difficult for attorneys to know which way the judge is leaning as part of this whole adjudication process. So what do I mean by that? It's much more difficult for a judge or for an attorney to know why the judge is leaning this way or leaning that way, purely because we can't see the gestures of the judges. Okay, we can't see if the judge is really happy. We can't see if the judge wants a particular thing. We just don't know. We can't see what the judge is getting at with their little movements and this and that and yada, yada, yada. So let me give you an example of some of the things judges will do that tell us what's going on with the claim. They'll say, okay, counselor, this. And then the way they say it and the way they handle their bodies are super duper incredibly important. They're important because we just came back on. They're important because we know then the judge just wants to approve the claim and push it forward. So another example of this would be if the judge would say, or the judge would go ahead and say to the vocational expert, I just want to consider this one job, or I don't think there's any past relevant work. And then you have to watch and see what the judge is doing. The judge may just be limiting what the past relevant work was, or the judge may be saying to the vocational expert, I want to approve this, make it a simple VE, make it a simple hypothetical review and presentation of jobs. Let's get it done. Let's move it forward. And there we go. So it's harder for me to tell what the judges want because I can't watch and see all the little nuances that they're doing through these telephonic hearings that we're having because of the coronavirus. Okay, so next thing, let's go ahead and talk about a few other little details. As you go through the hearing, there's usually 4 sections to it. There's the intro section. Hi, the judge will say hi to you. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, etc. And you'll basically go through a section in the intro where the attorney and the judge will be swapping out a bunch of acronyms, DLI, AOD, all of these little things that you're not going to understand what's going on. That's fine. Happens at every hearing. It's just the attorney going ahead and setting the foundation as to why we believe it should be a fully favorable for this reason or that reason. Once you get through the intro, you go to the examination and cross-examination section of the hearing. At this point, you're going to be asked all those questions. I know a lot of you see your attorney for the first time at the hearing. That's terrible. I get it. But seeing your attorney isn't really what's important. Going over questions with your attorney, doing testimony shaping with your attorney, that's important. So if you never saw your attorney before, that's okay for disability benefits. What's important is being able to go ahead and run those questions with that attorney. Now, is it to your advantage to still see that attorney? Is it to your advantage to still interact with that attorney on a face-to-face based, interaction? Yes, because then you're going to get to read the attorney's body language as to how long the question will be, when the attorney is cutting off the question, when the attorney is jumping in, when the attorney wants to kind of cut you off a little bit and start with a new one. You're not going to have all the little nuances of how the attorney is going to be doing things. However, most important for this purpose is that you have to get used to your attorney's voice when asking questions so that you are not in this kind of like startled sense of what's going on. If you are hearing your attorney's voice asking you questions for the first time at the hearing, then I guarantee you're not going to have a pleasant hearing experience. You might win it, but it's going to be significantly lower in percentage passage rate. So let's go on to the next thing real quick. Okay, so that was the second section of the hearing. Now, the third section of a hearing, a lot of you guys are curious about the whole vocational expert portion, and 99% of the comments that I see online are incorrect about how the vocational expert portion of the hearing works. So I want to take a moment, and I just want to make sure, okay, I want to take a moment and kind of go through with you guys specifically how the vocational expert portion of the hearing works. First, what is a vocational expert? It's the person that's there to give jobs to the ALJ that you could potentially do in the national economy. Why is a vocational expert giving jobs that you could potentially do in the national economy? The judge is giving jobs that you could do the vocational expert is giving jobs that you could do in the national economy because the vocational expert is answering the judge's questions as to element 4 and element 5 of the 5-step sequential process. These are the elements. There's 5 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's 5 elements. Element 4, right? Can you do your past relevant work? Can you do work you used to do within the past 15 years? Element 5, are they doing CE exams? No, they're not currently doing CE exams because the doctors don't want to get sick. All the mental and physical CEs have been canceled. They haven't been opened yet. They're not likely to be opened in a little while. Why are you trying to get a stimulus check? But I am worried. What? Okay, anyways. So basically, the vocational expert, the job expert, is there to give jobs to answer question element 4 and element 5 of the 5-step sequential process. Element 4 is, can the claimant do their past work? That's why they go through the work you did for the past 15 years where you earned over a certain amount. Why do let's go through, why do they ask about a job that you earn more at than a job you didn't earn that much at? Can I still work while filing SSA? Yes, but for SSI benefits, every $2 you earn, they take away $1 over every $85 you earn. So why does the vocational expert do this stuff? So basically what happens is a vocational expert will look at the jobs that you had back in the day. And if you earned over a certain amount, it's usually like $3,000, $3,500, $4,500, things like that. Then the judge looks at it and says, okay, you know what? I'm going to keep this job. This could be potentially an SGA job. Now remember, SGA is a little under $1,300 a month. So why are we looking at $3,500? Why are we looking at $4,500 earned? Because $3,500, $4,500, that means you've been working it for a couple of months. And if you were working that job for a couple of months, you had enough time to learn it. Now, are there simple jobs that don't take 3 to 4 months to learn? Yes, they're called SVP1 jobs. They're a short demonstration up to 30 days, yada, 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 one of those gigs. SVP means specific vocational preparation. It's how much time it takes to learn how to do that job. 1 is super short. Here's the broom, there's the floor. 10 or 9 doesn't go up to 10. 9 is like, rocket science. You've been studying this for 10 plus years. So why is a vocational expert there to answer questions about those jobs. Because element 4, if you can do the past work you did within the past 15 years, your PRW, past relevant work, then you are not disabled under the Social Security disability guidelines. Now, let's talk about this. Hi, Layla. Layla. There we go. Now, let's talk about this. When it comes to element 5, I'm so sorry, I know. Element 5 is, can you do the work, any job in the national economy, right? Except there's some limitations, right? If you don't have skills from your other jobs, they can't consider jobs that have skills that you don't have, right? These have to be jobs that are within your abilities. So the truth is, if you used to work highly skilled jobs, you were a doctor, you were an advanced registered nurse practitioner, you were a lawyer, you were an accountant, then there's other smaller jobs that they could choose for you to potentially do. Everything from, here's a shovel, there's the pile of dirt, to, if you were a doctor, couldn't you be a physician's assistant? Couldn't you be, couldn't you go ahead and study to do a nurse job? There's all these other jobs out there that you could potentially do. So, all right, what you need to know is this. Throughout this process, right, the vocational expert is there to give jobs to the judge that you could potentially do and to see whether or not you could do the jobs you once did. Element 5 and then element 4. Element 4, can you do your past relevant work? Element 5, can you do other types of jobs in the national economy? Now, here's what confuses all of the claimants. Here's where all the frustration comes from. Here's where all the is going on. Okay, so basically, when it comes to the vocational expert, if they can provide jobs that you could potentially do in the national economy that are simpler or the same difficulty as the jobs you once had, that share the same skills, semi-skills, or no skills at all, then you would not be found disabled. Now, what confuses all of you guys is the whole hypo thing, right? You guys here in the hearing, okay, the judge will say, I'm going to go ahead and ask a hypothetical question about the claimant. This hypothetical person, right? So they're creating a hypo version of you. For the purposes of this, we'll just call it the claimant. So this claimant, right? Let's say the claimant could only occasionally do this. And remember, there's movements, physical and mental things like, stooping, walking, crouching, climbing, ladders, ropes, scaffolds, lifting certain amounts, walking certain distances. There's certain things, right? We use frequently, occasionally, we use constantly. We use all these words that mean something, right? They're all part of a statute. And they designate how much time in a particular workday out of 8 hours you could do something, right? So it could be 0 to 1/3 of the time that you're working at the job, it could be 1/3 to 2/3 of the time working at the job, or it could be 2/3 of the whole time that you're working at the job that you could physically do an action. If you're hearing that, you can only do something 0 to 1/3 of the time at that job, that's good. You're most likely to be found disabled, because if you can only do something 0 to 1/3 of the time, that means you're highly restricted. If you could only walk 0 to 1/3 of the time, you're highly restricted. If you could only stand 0 to 1/3 of the time, you're very restricted. You have to do a sedentary job. If you could only sit 0 to 1/3 of the time, then guess what? Bottom line, you wouldn't be able to do a lot of the jobs out there. So here's a little trick. If you can't stand for 0 to 1/3 of the time, or rather more than 1/3 of them, very heavy, okay? I see the connection just went off. Okay, the connection is back. So what they do is they classify these jobs: sedentary, light, medium, heavy, and very heavy. All right, so what that means is that the sedentary jobs basically go ahead and mean, you could sit for 6 out of 8 hours, you could stand or walk for 2 out of 8 hours. The light jobs, right? That means you could stand or walk for 6 out of 8 hours, and you could sit for 2 out of 8 hours. So what you really want to do when trying to prove for disability benefits, the golden key here for a vocational allowance is to show how you can't stand or walk for 6 out of 8 hours, and you couldn't sit for 6 out of 8 hours. That takes out the sedentary and light types of jobs that exist in the national economy. Okay. Can you call the disability determination office for your state and medical charts you did not include in an original application, or will they really contact doctors you listed for your charts? James, here's what happens. DDS will send out what's called an 827, which is a HIPAA form, to the medical facilities that you went to. They're going to ask for specific documentation. They do not ask for images. They do not ask for a lot of, charts and things like that. They're just asking for a very limited diagnostic impression analysis, medical documentation. If you have medical charts, you can submit them to DDS at any point by faxing them to them. Make sure you use the DDS barcode. Will they contact your doctors? Yes, they'll do it through an 827, which is a federally protected HIPAA. The HIPAA allows them to go ahead and buy PHI. PHI is protected health information. Let's see what else is going on here. Ruth Garza. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on with Ruth. Fill that out and send what I had on hand. Thanks. Okay. So another thing I just want to point out to you, whenever you send anything to the SSA, everybody knows you send them a copy, you do not send them the original. However, the thing you need to hold on to is when you send it to them, because you get a lot of people that are like, oh, I never got it, I never this, I never that. If you have the barcode, you want to go ahead and send it in with the barcode and then call the DDS rep the next day to make sure that they received it. It won't be organized into their file, but it will be uploaded into their file. They'll have it in their system, but it won't be labeled. Okay, labeling is a huge part of this whole gig. It takes time for these people to get to that, but the bottom line is it'll be in their system because the computer system they have with the fax will automatically suck it right into your file. I was told I could only sit, stand, walk as comfortably allowed, which is about 2 hours. I was not able to bend, stoop, kneel, and climb any ladders where I still be considered disabled. Okay, so I'm going to sit, stand, walk as comfortably allowed, which is about 2 hours. So that means that basically you would be found disabled for that hypothetical. That does not mean all the hypotheticals had that. So if the judge only asked one hypothetical where you can only sit, stand, walk for 2 out of 8 hours, then yes, you would be found disabled. But remember, the judges usually ask 3 or 4 hypos. Hypo 1 is a not very disabled person version of you. You could do light work, you can do sedentary work. Hypo 2 is basically where they'll add some limitations that you have that are relevant to your claim. Hypo 3 is adding more limitations. Hypo 4 is you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't walk, yada yada. So, okay, barcode. What do I mean by barcode? There's 2 barcodes that you guys are going to run into. There's the DDS barcode. DDS is Disability Determination Services. It's the state agency, like the federal government pays the state to hire a bunch of people to adjudicate these claims as baby judges. It's the state agency that adjudicates your claims, and they send you a barcode. The barcode will basically say right across it that essentially, it'll have like some numbers at the bottom. It'll have your name, yada, yada. You put that on top when you fax stuff in. When you fax stuff in with the barcode, their digifax will automatically suck that file and put it right into your ERE folder. Now, different groups at the SSA don't use the ERE. The hearing office uses the ERE. DDS uses a different system. But they all pretty much work the same. They're CMS systems. They're client management systems. Is it the barcode that's on the bottom of the form, like a function report? Yeah, that has an automatic barcode included in it. So you're good there. You can just send that in. The machine will auto suck it in. However, some of the documents you're going to send in won't have a barcode on them. Like if you have to send in a statement of claimant, or you have to send in some other document that wasn't sent to you directly from TDS, that's why they send you the general barcode so you can send that in and have it be sucked into the system. Can you take care of others? What do you do with hobbies? What do you do today? Do you have any orthopedic devices? Do you have any pets? Stuff like that. 3373, when GDS sends it to you, will have the 3369. That's the work history. Where did you work? What did you earn? When did you work there? What did you lift? Did you manage people? That form has also a barcode included straight on the front page of it. The next form, the other ones you're going to run into usually are like A21, A20. You're going to run into, for example, the supplemental pain form, supplemental anxiety form, supplemental seizure form, supplemental HIV form, supplemental cardiac form. Those will usually have a barcode included with them. However, if you need to send them anything beyond that, like medical documents, a statement from a third party, a letter from a third party, a letter from a doctor, a residual functional capacity analysis from a doctor, you need the general barcode to put on top and then send it in. Cool. Let's see. Okay, I don't guess I have received a general one yet. Yeah, so a lot of you guys, so James, I'm guessing you are not represented. If you were represented by an attorney, they would already have a general barcode, and that's what they would use to send stuff in, because you would just send stuff to the attorney. If you don't have an attorney, call the DDS rep. It's at the bottom of the 3373, one of the initial pages right at the top, where it'll say, like, here's the phone number, here's the extension. Call them up, say, hey, can you fax me the barcode, or can you mail me the barcode? And they'll go ahead and do that. Okay. That's on YouTube. Okay, so yeah, if any of you guys want to call me, here, I'll put the number up there. I'm going to run hearing questions with you, that's totally fine. Any questions you have about the hearing, you can also post them up there. I'll just answer them. The whole point of this thing is to help you guys learn more about this system, how it works, and go through it all. Yes, I've seen that number. Thanks. Perfect. Excellent, James. So another thing, James, a couple of things you want to do. When you go ahead and submit your documentation, you want to ask and write these here. I'll write them in here. Sup, anxiety. These are the main forms that they're going to be using. So you want to make sure when you call the DDS rep to see if they received all these forms. The other things you're going to want to tell them is that you are you're going to want to tell them that you're willing to go to a CE. A CE appointment is basically a consultative examination. Because of COVID, you can't go to them right now because all the doctor's offices are closed. But the bottom line is, if you want one and you want their doctor's opinion, that's a good one. Another thing, when you go to the CE, the consultative examination appointment, always ask the doctor there, do you have a copy of my file? Do you have a copy of my file? Usually those people will say, no, I don't have a copy of your file. I don't have your medical records. I'm just winging it as a medical expert to see what's going on with you. So what that means is that basically you can use that by requesting that medical expert be present, and that basically you can use that also to say post-hearing to get an appeals counsel remand that essentially you didn't have a proper adjudication because the DDS rep did not send your medical records to the medical expert. That's kind of a trial tactic thing. It's beyond a lot of people. If you're represented, your attorney will help you with that. If you're not represented, you're probably not going to do it. I'll summarize it. When you go to the medical expert, ask them if they have your medical documentation. If they don't, write out 795 to the DDS rep saying the medical expert did not have any of my medical documentation that you collected pertaining to this claim, and for that reason, I would like their testimony withdrawn or the weight of the evidence pertaining to that medical expert reduced. Okay, so let me see real quick. Okay, so once again, guys, if you want me to answer or run questions with you, that's totally fine. Now, what going forward is the plan for me to do disability videos? I've written out a list of about 200, it'll probably grow to around 400 videos that I'm going to be doing in the future that are really simple and straightforward. I know some of the people were saying that some of my videos were a little bit too complex because I use a lot of acronyms, and I know some of the other attorneys out there, they use really simple terminology. I mean, they use baby words to kind of get the point across and stuff like that, and that's fine, and I should have done that, but I didn't. So I'm going to try and make some simpler videos to make it easier for people to kind of latch on to what the basic theme of what I'm trying to get across is for those particular Social Security disability tutorial videos. Okay, so Nicole Terrell, does being out on an FMLA for almost a year, right? That means that you are unable to work in the national economy for 12 months or more. Connection is unstable. They're reconnecting. Perfect. So we're reconnected now. So let me answer Nicole Terrell's question. So does being out on an FMLA for almost a year and then the doctor putting you out permanently make the case strong? Yes, because when the doctor puts you out permanently, what they're saying is you can't work in the national economy or you can't work for 12 or more months. That's usually what that means. The second element of disability benefits is, oh, hold on, we're getting a call right now. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. Are you ready to run some hearing questions? Perfect. Give me one moment. Okay, good, sir. So basically, a couple of details. Make sure you give a fake name. There's no attorney-client privilege structured by this. And as we go through it, you can interrupt me at any time and ask me what was the trick question part of it or any particular thing about it. Good, sir. Go ahead and state your full name, fake name for the record.
J-Mac.
Excellent. J-Mac, can you answer for me, what is your date of birth and current age?
Well, I'm around 60. Let's see, I was born in 61, so 61 makes me, what, 58, 59?
Okay. So now, right off the bat, my attorney brain is saying, okay, he's in the 55 to 59 in a day before 60 category. If he's 59, I can negotiate with the judge to get the 60 to 65 category, which means element 5 of this whole disability process disappears. And element 5 means we don't care if you can do other work in the national economy. We only care if you can do the work you once did. So let's roll through these questions, and then I'll tell you basically what was good, what was, an issue, things like that. So good, sir. Walk me through this. What is your most severe impairment?
Well, I've had 4 TIAs, which are strokes, of course, many strokes. I've got to get both my knees. I've had one hip replaced. I've got to get the other hip replaced. I've got both my knees got to be replaced. These are from the military. I have a loss of memory. I have tinnitus. I have a loss of hearing in my left ear. And I have headaches and things of that sort all the time. I have high blood pressure. And there's something else. So much I got, I can't remember right now. But the main thing is those things that I told you. And I'm 100% disabled through the military.
Okay.
Permanent and total. All
right. So now, have you already filed? Are you about to have a hearing? Where are you at in the process?
I've filed, and I'm on my second appeal because I just filed, and I just let the attorney group. I haven't spoken to an attorney, just the folks that work for the attorney, and I just let them handle it. And I try to go on every day. I'm not working. I haven't worked since May 18th. Okay. And it's just, it's becoming to be, a little annoying now that I'm having to send in these papers, paper after paper, these documents, and I'm not getting any. I'm not getting anything. But
right.
The pay from the military, is my only income, and it does help.
Sure.
So it's not that I'm after the pay or anything. It's just that I thought because of my condition, I should be getting some sort of and this is something I was told by one of my other veteran friends that you should be getting Social Security with all your ailments and your issues.
What I'd like you to do is, and this is aside from the questioning, and I do a bad job with these because I want to beat you guys up, but at the same time, because of what I do, I just want to tell you how to fix it. I need you to write down the following statute. Do you have a pencil and paper with you there?
I am going to get one right now.
Perfect, good sir. I'm just going to give you the specific critical case analysis statute for you to go ahead and use for a VPAT, and then we'll also talk about the MCWW, which is the Wounded Warrior / military casualty type of claim. All right, so when you're ready, let me know, and I'll give you the statute that you can use to help speed up the claim and get.
Okay.
Perfect. It is I as in igloo -2-1-40, specifically subsection A, subsection 2, and also subsection A, subsection
2, and then subsection A and subsection 3.
Perfect. So what are these? The first one, too, is a veteran 100% permanent and total impairment. That's where the VA will go ahead and say, hey, look, we collected all the percentages of his impairments, and they equate to an inability to work. So if you have a 90%, that means you could still potentially work. But 100%, right, that means total and complete permanent impairment. You ain't working, you're serious, you can't do stuff, okay? So what does that mean? Under the Social Security Code, basically they will speed up a claim and almost auto-approve them if you are a VPAT 100%. A VPAT 100% is where when you have all of your percentages that add up to 100, the SSA looks at it and says, okay, we agree with the VA. The VA is right. His impairments are severe. We take that as evidence. We bolster the weight that he is likely severely impaired, and therefore we're going to find a finding of disability for him. So has your attorney currently filed you for an expedited allowance under the I-2-1-40 subsection A2 VPAT for 100% VA impairment?
That I wouldn't know because I haven't spoken to the attorney. I've only spoken to one of the agents that work there.
Okay.
And the only thing that they told me is I need to fill out these forms again. And fill out these forms is my pain level, my capability of performing day-to-day functions and things of that sort. That's it.
Okay. All right. So basically, if you are at an appeal at this point, right, because you got your first denial, you're now appealing into reconsideration. If you're at that point with this thing, then you should have already been filed for that I-2-1-40 subsection A2 100% VPAT allowance. So with that said, it would be something that I might, as you suggest, to go bug your attorney/attorney folk about getting that done, because man, it's going to change. It's going to speed up the whole process. Have you provided to them your 100% VPAT form from the VA? Like, do you have where it says
Yes, sir, I have.
okay, cool. So go ahead and ask them to submit it under that code, and it should speed up the process. Now, how long did it take for your first initial adjudication to get your first denial, from when you filed to get you got a denial?
I filed as soon as I started working in May of last year, and I'm now going with an appeal tonight. And after I was denied, I contacted the office and I asked them. I said, "Listen, guys, I don't want you guys to do this anymore. Y'all just stop, and then I'll just look around for someone else that can actually help me." And I was going to try to go through the Wounded Warrior Project, but they actually filed the appeal before I can get a letter in to them, and I got a letter in the mail stating that they had already filed the appeal. So I didn't know if at that time I could just still go on and ask them, or to discontinue services for me, or if I had to wait for this next appeal to go through. So during this time,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you can fire them at any point, whether they file an appeal or not. The bottom line is that if you wanted to switch attorneys or go through the Wounded Warrior Project or any one of those things, you could do that. Here's the kicker. You want to go ahead and file for that VPAT allowance. You want to go ahead and make sure all your DDS documentation is done. And you want to specifically get a hold of your DDS rep and point out to them that you are 100% VPAT. Now, of your 100%, which is the largest percentage?
The traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
70%.
Okay. So the TBI, and just to go through that real quick, is this a multiple instances situation or a singular incident?
I think it was a single. Yeah, it was a singular. I don't even remember it happening because they said I was unconscious. But I don't remember it happening. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it was a singular time. Yes.
Okay. So if it was a singular incident, how long ago was it from today?
It was in 1980.
Oh man, that was way, way back. How many jobs have you worked since then? His TBI must have not been that bad as to limit him to actually continue working. Now, tell me now, within the past 2 years or since you stopped working, why it's worse than it ever was before.
Well, I have a lot of headaches. My memory is failing, which is what I've got to go and talk to my doctor again about. My memory is getting really bad. I have headaches on a daily basis, and I get dizzy. I'm taking medication for dizziness, so I get dizzy daily, 2 or 3 times a day when I'm standing, or even when I'm laying in the bed. When I'm sitting, I don't get the dizzy spell, but standing and laying down, I get dizzy spell.
Okay. All right. So here's my concern. Was there a particular occurrence that happened just as you were ending your work, your vocational, track, that made it worse? Or were there other impairments that became worse that made it so that you couldn't work in the national economy?
There was an incident, which it was a couple of incidents that happened, but the most recent one was when I was going upstairs. I got dizzy and my chest started hurting, and I sat down on the stairs. Someone came in, and then next thing I know, I was waking up. I was in the hospital for 3 days. I didn't wake up in the hospital. I was admitted into the hospital for 3 days. The doctor said it was stress and fatigue.
Okay.
And I was a manager, so it's not like because I can't do very much lifting. My knees don't allow me to. Neither does my hips. But that was the most recent incident, which I think happened maybe a year ago or less.
All right. So we got a recent emergency visit. You were unconscious, which means we have to supply to the SSA third-party statements as to what happened. Did you get from alternative parties, the people who were there when it happened, a written statement on a 795, which is a statement of claimant form, specifying what happened to you?
No, I did.
Okay. So
and I wasn't unconscious going upstairs. I just basically got dizzy and I sat down on the stairs and I started having chest pains and my left arm started bothering. I didn't get unconscious then. My unconscious time was maybe a few years ago when I was sitting down at Hooters to sit down and have some food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, I was waking up in the back of an ambulance being transported to the hospital.
Okay. So multiple occasions. Now, I'm going to ask you questions just like a judge would. Let's see how you do throughout this process. Good sir, go ahead and mention for me, what are the top 5 impairments that you have that limit your ability to work?
I feel like the top 10 impairments I have the fact that I can only walk a certain amount of distance, I can only sit a certain amount of time, and my level of concentration is very, very is impaired. The fact that it's hard for me to kind of actually follow instructions when I'm reading it. I follow instructions if I hear it, but reading instructions is a little tough for me. And number 5, geez, I can't think of number 5. My hearing. I have to wear hearing aids, and I have hearing impairment.
Okay. So a lot of those were symptoms of impairments. The last one was a hearing impairment because of the tinnitus that you spoke of. So, for example, your TBI, hypertension, tinnitus. Walk me through what are the top 5 impairments, not symptoms, that you have that limit your ability to work in the national economy?
Again, my hips having to be replaced. One has been already replaced. My knees having to be replaced. My ability to stand and lift. Ability to keep up with reading instructions and follow them carefully. Memory, another thing. Hearing, and the fact that I get headaches throughout the day, and my concentration gets somewhat impaired. Okay.
Not bad. Work on it, because reading, right? The ability to read is a symptom of an impairment. It isn't an impairment. Right? It's the symptom of impairment because you said your hips, because you said your knees, things like that. So let me ask you this. Do you have a walker, wheelchair, cane, crutch, anything like that prescribed to you?
Yeah, I have a cane that I've been prescribed, and a brace. I have a brace that I've been prescribed, and I still have the walker from the hip surgery that was prescribed, but of course I kept it because I got to get the knee done next, and then the other hip, and then the other knee.
Okay. So when you were prescribed the cane, was it a single prong or a 4-prong?
Single prong.
So you were talking about balance issues before. Why don't you have the 4-prong?
I asked for that, and the doctor said, let's try this first, and I haven't been back to talk to him about it.
Do me a favor, go to the emergency room, ask for a prescription for a 4-prong, ask for an updated prescription for your walker, and also ask for a prescription for your shower stool in your shower. That way you've covered the basis of things that show objective evidence of why you can't stand for long periods.
Okay.
Perfect. Next thing I want you to do, good sir, walk me through this. What medications are you taking? What are they for? And what side effects do you get from them?
Okay, I'll have to look at these. I know I am taking hypertension, blood pressure medication. Cholesterol medication, which is the atorvastatin. Dizziness medication, which is the meclizine. The dizziness medication gives me a weird stomach feel. High blood pressure medication, which is amlodipine or dipine. Yeah. Blood pressure, water pill, which is the spironolactone. I'm prescribed vitamin D3. I'm prescribed fluticasone for my allergies. losartan for blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and the dollar thing. Losartan. Yep, that's it.
Okay. What I need you to do is I need you to go ahead and look up each medication, figure out how they pronounce the name, look up each medication, find out specifically what each one is for, and then look up each medication's side effects, pull 2 side effects from each, have a list so that you can go ahead and say those side effects to a future medical expert if you're going to be seeing another one.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So let's do this. So good sir, we just covered the impairments you have. We covered the medications that you take. Walk me through this. What was the last job you had?
I worked as a hospitality manager for Hilton.
Okay. As a hospitality manager, what did you do as part of the job requirements?
Basically hire, fire, schedule, converse with the guest about issues, solve the issues with the guest. The typical managerial responsibilities for 32 people, 2 departments. There was a lot of walking required, up and down the stairs from one floor to the other because the elevator took so long, and I had to actually move quickly to get to the different guests. So that was pretty much it. Place orders for materials and supplies and things of that sort.
Okay, so when you talk about the job you once did, don't make it seem bigger and better, or even as big and amazing as it was. Make it direct and to the point and summarize, but don't go over the top with it, because the problem is if you talk about how all these mega amazing things were, you're giving yourself more and more skills that they can use to give you other jobs that you could potentially do in the national economy. So just be careful with how you say, like, oh, it was over 32 this, and it was multiple divisions, and it was da-da-da-da-da. Just be careful with your skill set, because the more you build it, the more they can attack you with it. Okay. Next thing that's really important, as you go through this process, well, let's hit you with another tough question. Good sir, do you smoke?
No.
Do you drink alcohol?
I do.
Okay. So is it wine? Is it beer? Is it some sort of, spirit?
3.
How many beers do you drink a week?
A week, maybe 3, 4.
Maybe 3 or 4. How many wine glasses do you drink a week?
Oh, geez, that's like maybe 2 a month.
2 a month?
Once a month.
Okay.
And sometimes not even that month, not even a month.
Okay. So what is your alcohol of choice? Is it spirits? Is it beer?
Yeah, Scotch.
Scotch. Okay. Scott, how many shots of scotch do you do a week?
During the week, maybe 1. On the weekend, maybe 3 or 4.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that's a good answer. Now let's follow it up. So how many shots of scotch did you have tonight?
None.
None. What about yesterday?
None.
What about the day before that?
None.
And the day before that?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. So we got like 4 days back, 2 or 3. And then what about the day before 4 days back, 5 days back?
Jeez, I can't remember that far.
Okay. Was it because of the drinking?
I'll be honest with you. No, because I don't get drunk. That's just it. I don't get drunk. I just like to taste the scotch.
So you see how the judge would go at you with that, and they would say, okay, is it because of the drinking? Is it because of the this? Is your memory limited because of what you're drinking? So just be careful when you present your claim to the judge as to how many you drink in a week. Because, if we're at 3 in one day, and then you get 2 on another day, and then you get 1 more on another day, well, all of a sudden we're at 6, which is more than the 4 you originally told me. Okay.
Right.
Now with this, do you have any difficulty with cooking, cleaning, paying bills or doing laundry?
Actually, I don't do laundry. My wife handles that. I do go out and change the cycles and things of that sort, but my wife actually takes the laundry to the laundry room, and she goes and puts the laundry in and takes it out. I change the cycle sometimes when I hear the buzzer go off or whatever. Sometimes I do move it from the washer to the dryer. Yard work, we have a yard guy to come in and take care of the yard work. I have robots that do the sweeping, and robots that do the mopping. That's pretty much it. Yeah, and paying bills. No, I don't have a problem with paying a bill. But my wife has kind of asked me, "Did you pay this bill?" And sometimes I have forgotten, and then I'll go in and do it, and sometimes she just do it herself. But she try to keep me, kind of keep me alert by assigning the bill, paying to me one bill, and she takes care of the other.
So it sounds like you can do a lot of stuff still. I mean, you can still do some stuff, you know?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not an invalid. No, that's for sure.
Okay.
I can't get up and I can drive, but I can only drive for about maybe 15 minutes, and I have to get out, stretch my knee, and then I can get back on it.
All right, so you can still do stuff. You can still pay bills. You can still function. So, okay. Your wife helps you out with laundry. You could probably lift a gallon of milk without issue, right? Just a gallon of milk.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. You could probably walk more than 20, 30 feet, probably even 100 feet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you think you could walk a football field?
I could put forth an effort to do it. I would be killing myself to do it. But I could do it. I could put forth the effort, but at the end of that, I would be in so much pain on my right knee that I would want to shoot myself. I mean, that's just talking.
No, I got you. Yeah. So
I wouldn't do that.
yeah. No, it was with a BB gun, nothing more. Gotcha. Yeah.
Back to the bubble gum.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what I've done there in that short period of time is I proved you can do household tasks. I proved that you can walk far enough to do a light sedentary or a light-based job. I proved that you can do work in the vocational environment. And unless you are 59, about to be 60, I've just gotten you found not disabled. So here's what to watch out for.
Okay. Right.
When it comes to cooking, cleaning, laundry, or paying bills. You have difficulty with paying bills because you have memory issues. You have a hard time remembering what was paid, what wasn't. When it comes to laundry, you have a hard time lifting things due to your knees, your hips, your back. You have to go article by putting them into the washer and in the dryer. You cannot lift an entire basket, nor can you lift the entire soap load. When it comes to doing kitchen-related activities, you leave things on that you shouldn't. You leave doors open. You forget to turn things off, and you are unable to follow multiple instructions because the medication makes you woozy and tired. When it comes to cleaning, you have a difficult time reaching up high because of the back pain, so you can't dust up high. When it comes to vacuuming, you have a hard time pulling the vacuum backwards because it strains your hips and your knees. When it comes to cleaning a room, you have a hard time moving carpets, rolling carpets, or moving furniture due to the weight of them. And a gallon of milk is around 8 or 9 pounds, and you would have a hard time lifting it with one hand for an extended period. You could maybe do it 2 or 3 times in one day. But after that, you wouldn't be able to lift that arm for the rest of the day.
Sound like my wife.
Perfect. Man, she's a smart lady. Let me tell you. I like this one. Yeah. That's good. Excellent. So the thing is, and the gentleman that's actually part of this whole YouTube live event is Dr. Spock. And he pointed out, too, you also, through those statements, could show that you had the capacity to drive. So let me ask you a couple questions there. So if you can drive, right, could you potentially, could you potentially drive out of the county?
Yes.
What about the state?
I tried that, and my wife had to take over.
Okay. So how far was driving out of the state for you?
We were going to Alabama, and I had to get out of the truck about maybe 10, 15 times and stretch my knee. We rented a truck, and I had to keep getting out, stopping, and pulling over till she just decided to go and take over.
Now, I'm a truck guy. I loves me a truck. I got a 7.3 extended bed, extended cab, dually, F350. Love it. I got a 59 Chevy short bed, deluxe, big window in the back. She's a fleet side. Love her. I give her kisses every night. So let me ask you this. Did you get a standard truck? Did you get a big, what kind of ton truck, chassis truck did you get?
It was a Ford extended, what's that big one? The that big one that have SUV.
You got the Excursion?
Yeah, it was. That's all they had available.
That's
we
my
car.
I love the Excursion.
Yeah.
I don't own an Excursion.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. If somebody has a limited 2003 7.3 Excursion out there in white with gold trim, you need to call me. I want me an Excursion. I love the Excursion. Oh my God. I mean,
this was a brand new one. I don't think it had more than 12 miles on it.
Jeez.
It was brand new right off the lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
White extended XLT, I think it is. Yeah.
Sure.
It was a big machine.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I absolutely love the Excursion. Good sir, with the Excursion, were you started driving, you hopped into it. How far did you drive when you hopped into it?
We got to Daytona. I had gotten out maybe 3 times.
Okay.
And to take over.
So how long does it take to drive from Florida to Alabama?
I think about maybe 7 hours, 7 or 8 hours.
Okay. Now, I know the answer to that because I have what's called a Facebook Marketplace problem. Let me tell you, I buy used stuff and I just, I need that. And like literally tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I'm going to be driving south to go pick up a 45-pound stainless steel anchor. So let me ask you this. All right. Now, you see what I did there? Yeah.
And actually, Walter, she actually took over in Jacksonville, around the Jacksonville area, because I had gotten out about maybe 6 or 7 times. I just remember that. I remember in Daytona, she wanted to take over, but I kept saying I would do it. So around the Jacksonville area, she took over. Yeah. And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're doing good. So let me ask you this. When I said you hopped into the Excursion, what was your, did that just, did you hear a ringing bell, or was that something that didn't stand out to you?
It might gave me issues because I hadn't had the surgery. So my hip and my right knee gave me issues. So I might have seen some stars, but I decided to go on and try to drive. I wanted to drive this truck.
Okay. Now I understand that because when I said you hopped into it, Excursions are high off the ground because Excursions are a big vehicle. Right. So that means you got to, you got to be able to say to the judge, because I put words in your mouth. You got to say to the judge, no, Your Honor, I didn't hop into the Excursion. I had to pull myself in slowly. I had a hard time getting into it. It was very difficult. Then you're going to go into, between Jacksonville and here, it's 3 hours. I had to get out and stretch my legs and move around 6 times. I was on these pain medications at these points. The trip's supposed to take 3 hours to get to that point. It took 4 hours. You want to go through and outline all of the little details as to why you couldn't do something that was functional related to, getting from point A to point B. And with vehicles, when I hear people say trucks, first thing I want to know is, was it a little truck? Are we talking about a cute little Nissan? Was it a big truck? Are we talking about, something that's might even be bigger than an F-350? It might be a 450, a 550. Was it a Freightliner? Was it a Mack truck? What kind of truck was it? When you were driving back in the day, when you had these impairments and you were claiming these impairments, were you driving a bigger truck? Was that part of your thing? And then a thing I like to throw in there, well, tell me, what kind of trucking license do you have? Do you have a specialty license? Now, here's the thing I would follow up with your claim if I were a judge and I was in a good mood because I didn't have my bagel that morning, I was missing cream cheese or whatever, and I was unhappy. I would then go into, well, do you have a motorcycle endorsement on your license?
Right. And I would tell them no.
Perfect. So do you have a heavy equipment license or certification on your license?
I do not.
Do you own a rider mower?
No.
Do you own a tractor?
No.
Okay. Do you have a bicycle that you use from time to time?
I have a bicycle, but it's in the shed. I can't drive. I can't ride a bicycle because my knee won't allow it to go all around the full motion. And if it does, then I'll probably be disabled. Really disabled, can't walk around, can't do anything for about a week.
All right. So here's where I would tack this claim. Now, you live in a house, correct?
Yes, sir.
Single story, double story?
A single floor.
Single floor, okay. Are there any steps going in and out of it?
No.
Okay. You have a garage, right?
Yes, sir.
In the garage, you have ladders, you have little things like that. Do you own a ladder?
No. Oh, yes, I do. Actually, it's my neighbor's. But,
Okay.
He actually used it to come over to do something for me on my roof, and he left it here. So it's been here for over a year, so I basically say I own it.
I also have one of those ladders, and I treasure it. And by that, I mean I beat the hell out of it. So I totally understand. All right. So let me ask you this then. When it comes to the ladder, you borrowed it from your neighbor. You used it recently. What'd you use it for?
Well, actually, I didn't. He actually brought it over to do something for me because I couldn't get on it.
Smart. Good.
There was something on the roof that he just wanted to put some paste on the roof before we got the roof replaced.
Good.
I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. So when it comes to where you live, how far away do you live from the grocery store?
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half? Okay. So that means you're not walking there. You're not taking a small like RTV, UTV, anything like that. You're going there in a vehicle.
Yes.
Now here, I'm just going to summarize and tell you the trick to this whole thing. Blame everything that you truthfully can on your wife doing it. Groceries, cooking, laundry, dealing with the kids, punishing the kids again. All those details. Blame it on your wife because she has to be the one that can do functional tests. I'm assuming, does the wife still work?
No.
Okay. Is she also impaired or disabled?
Yes.
Okay. So then you got to be careful because if she has her disability benefits, and remember, is she VA as well?
No, she hasn't. She doesn't have this disability.
Okay. So then you got to be careful with what you blame on her because that can be used against her for her adjudication.
Exactly.
Now you're an older Twitter account.
No, I've got one, but I haven't been on it in probably 3-4 years.
Okay, gotcha.
My LinkedIn account, last time I was on it when I was working.
Okay.
It was a year ago, and then I disabled it. I deleted it because it doesn't do me good.
Okay.
I have a Facebook account that's been shut down for maybe 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other account, the Twitter, I have a Twitter account. I never go on it.
Okay. So do you have a pool at your house?
A cooler?
A pool, a POOL.
Oh, no, sir, I don't.
Do you have a hot tub?
No.
Okay. Now, where I would have gone with those is who cleans the pool? How do you get in and out of the hot tub? Things like that.
Right.
Okay, good. So, all right, let me ask you this. If you receive the benefits, how would you use them?
The benefits?
Yeah, if you got the check every month in the health insurance.
Well, probably just, after I pay my tithe, I would just save and then purchase the things that need to be purchased around the house, and making sure the house is taken care of, making sure food is on the table.
Okay. When you say the house is taken care of, what do you mean?
I just recently had to have an electrician to come around and just install the light on the outside. I had to have an electrician to come around and install another light about maybe 6 months ago. Those kind of things.
Okay.
I just tried to get the lawn guy to do some work in the front yard and waiting on for him to give me a cost to see if we can afford it.
So remember, when it comes to upkeep of house, the first thing my brain went to is what are you repairing? What tools do you own? Let's go into air tools. Let's go into hand tools. Let's go into background and knowledge. He worked for a hotel. He obviously knows repair people. He's obviously done repairs. So that's where my brain went. Keep in mind, you just switched it to hiring electricians, hiring professionals to do it. Make sure you hit it with that right up front. Otherwise, it's going to look like to me you're taking money that's for your medical and general upkeep to specifically fix up the house for other people, including your wife.
All right.
Perfect. So good, sir. Let me ask you this. The last job you had was the hotel job. What other types of jobs have you had within the past 15 years?
Well, I actually tried doing photography, and that didn't work out too well. As being a photographer, I worked in a warehouse. Actually, worked in a warehouse, and I think it just got worse working in there. I got to the point where it was tough for me to live, so they actually transferred me into a different department, and I went into a IT department, and couldn't quite keep up with that as time went on. To learning, keeping up, trying to catch up on the new things, and I ended up getting laid off. What else I've done? I was a driver, believe it or not, business to business, and of course, that was really where I really had started having to get out of the car and stretch my knee. It was every 30 minutes or so, and then maybe even 45 minutes I could drive. At one time I could drive 2-3 hours, or more. But as time went on, my knees started deteriorating.
Sure.
And things of that sort. So,
were you
the job I recently?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, good sir.
No, the job I recently had, I was laid off because of the inability to maintain the managerial responsibilities, and that was all they told me.
Okay. Were you a Hasselblad, a Nikon, a Canon? What type of camera person were you?
Actually, Canon. Canon. Everything was Canon. Everybody who worked with me had to have a Canon.
Okay. Were you using L series glass? What kind of glass were you using?
L's.
Very nice. What was your favorite lens?
The 1628. But
for your portraits?
Actually, that was a Sigma. I used a 85, I think it was.
1.2, sure.
Yeah.
85 millimeter f1.2, beautiful lens. I used to own one and use it all the time.
Yes, sir.
So walk me through this. What kind of lighting would you use?
We occasionally use the flash, of course, bouncing it off the ceiling. Then there were the JTLs we use for portrait shots.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what I'm doing right now, and I'm not going to take you down the whole line because it takes a while. What I'm doing right now is I'm showing that not only do you have good memory when it comes to long-term memory, but you have good technical working memory. The next question I would go into is how you would set up your stage to take photos of things. And that would show me that you have step-by-step analysis abilities, which means that I could give you like a recipe to cook a meal. I could give you the requirement to set up a shoot for something, and you would be able to step-by-step set it up. And the reason why it's important is we look at, okay, is this a 1 to 3 step thing to do it? Is this a 3 to 5? Is this a 5 to 7? Is this a 7 to 9? How many steps does it take for you to be able to do that? And if you can do those things by memory, then what is to stop you from doing them physically? It's like somebody going to school for something. If you can go to school for it, what is to limit you from doing it physically thereafter in a vocational setting? So,
all right.
Okay, perfect. Now, walk me through this. All right, you talked about other jobs. You talked about a driving job. When are you expecting to leave the state the next time?
I actually hadn't had any plans, to be honest with you.
Okay, so no plans to leave the state. By the way, I just want to point out before we go into this next portion, you're doing really well. You're a gentleman that has not been prepared by an attorney for a hearing. Your answers are very believable. They're very straightforward. I support a lot of the things that you're saying because you come off as a highly truthful individual, which a lot of my claimants I have difficulty with. They come off as a little here, a little there, yada, yada. Your answers have been straightforward, honest. I believe you. I think you're a genuine person. I would find you disabled, but I would find you disabled not through a vocational allowance. I would find you disabled through a gridding allowance specifically for sedentary work. and light work. Now, do you know what grids are?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, so there's 4 main ways to be found disabled. You are not a CAL, compassion allowance listing. You might be a 1.02 or a 1.03. 1.03 is the weight-bearing one. 1.02 is just the joints in general. And the 1.04 is the spine. You might be a 1.03 musculoskeletal listing, element 3 of the 5-step sequential, which means that basically you would listing out at element 3. If it were me and I have this claim, what I would do is I would go ahead and seek a vocational allowance and a gridding allowance. Okay, so what I want you to do later is look up the grids. They're disability grids. Look up for a person between 55 and 59 in the day before 60. And then look at your education, then look at your skilled work that you used to do, and basically, look at, your current setting of what you could potentially do and see if you would actually grid out in that sense. So let me ask you this. What education do you have? Did you finish high school?
I did.
Did you finish college?
No, sir, I didn't.
How many years of college did you try?
Well, I only went 2 months of college.
2 months of college. What happened?
Just couldn't quite get it. Couldn't quite keep up with the academics. There was only one that I could keep up, which was called speech, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I did okay in that, but with the math, I think it was algebra or whatever.
Sure.
Those things were a little bit too complicated for me to try to keep up.
Yeah, the things that we use on a daily basis with our work every single day of our life. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't use algebra either. I mean, accounting, I don't use it. When it comes, this is interesting. The only time I use X to find it as a variance to compare against other numbers is when I'm trying to figure out how much I want to spend on something that's on eBay compared to what it is in other store locations. That's the only time in my life I use algebra for eBay, which is sad. So, all right. So you've got basically a high school education. You don't have transferable skills. You are between 55 and 59 and day before 60. I would have gridded you out. You should grid out. I don't know why you got a denial. So I would go ask your attorney about which gridding you fit into and why they didn't find you disabled for that. I would ask them why you don't fit particularly well into the TBI listing or the weight-bearing joint listing, which is your 1.03 musculoskeletal. I would ask them specifically. Now, here's another thing, too. You haven't talked a lot about depression. You haven't talked a lot about, for example, anxiety or panic attacks. Are those on the table?
Yes, sir. The anxiety.
Okay. Anxiety. Now, you tell me in your own words, and remember, a judge might ask this, and claimants give a really bad answer for it. What is anxiety to you?
I have this thing where I always think something is going to happen, and I start getting my heartbeat starts beating up really fast, and my hand starts to sweat. That's pretty much it. And then also I think I have like a shortness of breath or whatever, or it's hard to breathe. I don't know if it's a shortness of breath or just because my heart's beating fast, kind of like right now. And then I have to catch my breath and everything. And a lot of times I get a little dizzy during that time.
So let's go through that real quick. When you talk about anxiety, that was an excellent summary, but I had no emotional connection to why you have it. None at all. I didn't know if this was something that you've been struggling with for an extended period because of a particular story or situation that happened to you. I didn't know if this was something that you had from your VA background that had a specific instance, a PTSD sort of instance occur. I had no emotional connection to you. So you tell me what story in your past delivers an emotional punch about the anxiety that you have.
Well, I mean, it is a little personal, and because I've given a lot of information on this public forum, I kind of wouldn't want to, put that out there. But, during this conversation I had with you, I've been considering just going on, like you said, and fire my attorney and see if I can actually hire someone like you or yourself.
Sure. Okay, so the big focus here is that a lot of claimants that go back in time to the VA benefits have some form of PTSD, which is broken into two categories of modern day occurrence. That's they're awake and they get flashbacks, or they're asleep and they get nightmares. And those two are always or usually recurrent, right? So it's the same memory that pops up every so often. It's the same nightmare that pops up so often. The most important part of your claim is building off of the foundation of your PTSD memory as to why you have anxiety, which is why you can't function in a vocational setting around other individuals because you get off task. You may not be aggressive or hostile towards them. You may not forget what you're doing right then and all the time, but sometimes it makes you forget what you're doing. And that is so important because military guys, you're tougher than the average person in America. And so what that means is that you tend to hide those things that cause the memories, those impairments from other people. It's like a female claimant. One of the first questions I always ask right up front, is there sexual abuse in your past? Right? Because they're not going to tell me otherwise. I got to go all the way to a hearing for a judge, a female judge, to make them feel comfortable enough to tell me, hey, I have sexual abuse in my history as a female. Males, especially in the Army, there's memories. Realize how long I was on the phone with you. I was on the phone with you for 50 minutes. Good sir, do you have any questions for me that I can help you out with before I pop off this phone call and take another one?
Actually, I was going to actually contact you personally after get rid of my current attorney firm.
Sure.
And see if there's any room in your, that you can help me out with my claim.
Absolutely, good sir. This is a claim that shouldn't be difficult to win. What I would say is this: shoot me a quick email. What I'm looking for is basically name, phone number, and then what I'll do is I'll send the forms over to you. We'll get you rolling in the right direction. And the main focus is we want to grid you out. We want a listing analysis for 2 particular listings, and we want a potential for a vocational allowance. And we didn't get a chance to talk about DOTs. DOT is a dictionary of occupational titles. It's a big book that talks about jobs in the national economy. I'm going to show you how to look up the jobs you used to have, and then we're going to write out a 795 for each job to explain why yours was a little bit different, how they gave you accommodations at each job, which is why you can no longer do each job in the national economy based upon the DOT requirements.
Excellent.
Perfect. Good, sir. Have a wonderful night. Stay healthy, and I will catch up with you later.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your time. Be safe, and you will be getting an email from me pretty much within the hour.
Thank you, good sir. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Yes. Yes, well. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, so that was really, really good. That was an individual that was super honest, super direct, super relaxed, and giving accurate answers that I believed. I believed he was genuine. We've had a few phone calls in with these other live sessions where I've been sitting there going, I don't know if I feel this person is being genuine with me. I don't know if this person is being direct with me in a way that I feel like I'm getting information. You know, a really indirect thing that a claimant might do is the judge will ask, well, what were you doing in Jacksonville? And the claimant might respond, well, it's none of your business. That would be a super indirect way of me going automatically saying, I don't trust this claimant. Oh my God. However, this gentleman, I believe him completely. I think his claim is accurate. I'm very curious as to why there was an initial denial. So I want to go ahead and figure out the details to that. But that claim is one that I absolutely believe should have been found disabled at the initial filing level. Now, could he have had a difficult DDS rep? Sure. Do denials at the initial filing level happen? All the time. But for 55 to 59ers, those you can usually get through so long as you've got a good claim. And that's a 100% VPAT with the potential for a wounded warrior, with the potential for basically, you know, going back to the mental and the physical, multiple surgeries. We don't know which ones were failed surgeries. He's still got pain, which means there's probably a failed surgery in there. this is an excellent claim that should be able to go through and be found disabled using those statutes, those regulations. So one of the first things I'm going to have him do is fill out details for an expedited brief allowance, because we have a templatized brief to go ahead and try and get him on the expedited allowance train to make the whole thing faster. Let me read some of the responses here. Let's see. Yeah, work on your descriptions for impairments. Very good. I didn't want to trigger CDR by calling. I just got one last month and passed it. I was wondering, is it potluck whether you get a short form or long form? No, it's not potluck. Short forms. Okay, so for you guys who don't know what CDRs are, by the way, Dr. Spock, this is super important to you. The whole CDR thing. CDRs are continuing disability reviews. They happen usually every 1 to 3 years. Trump just added the new regulatory requirement for basically individuals that are in between the statutory wording that you could get one every 2 years. If you are under 60 years old, you are likely to get them. If you are under 55 years old, if you are older than 60, you're not likely to get them. If you're between 55 and 59, you might get one. If you're between 50 and 55, you might get one, maybe two, but most likely just one. If you are younger than that, every couple of years you're going to get one. It used to be historically every 7 years. Not anymore. The reason why is they're trying to kick off more people who are no longer impaired in a shorter period of time to save money to the government and make those claimants go back to work so that there's more money for other claimants. Social Security super mega ultra fund, $1 billion mega fund, basically ran out. It ran out back in the day. Okay, so what do you need to know? CDRs are continuing disability reviews with a short form and a long form option. A short form is a very simple, straightforward, it's a quick, we're just checking in, send us what you got, yada, yada. The long form is not as bad as doing an initial filing, but there's a lot more to it because they usually found in the evidence of your claim documentation that shows you are no longer impaired at the level at which you once were. Also, age plays a whole thing in this. When you're older, you usually get more short forms than when you're younger, you usually get more long forms. Now, if you are one of those individuals who receives the benefits, right, and doesn't use your health insurance, you are going to likely get a long form because the Social Security Administration is going to want to know where you've been going. And if you haven't been going in for medical, then the basic premise is, well, you must not be that impaired or you must not be that disabled because you haven't been getting continuous treatment. Okay. For mental impairments, they like to see people who are going in for mental treatment about 2 weeks of every 4 months. Okay, 2 weeks of time seeing a doctor of every 4 months. Is that realistic? No, because most doctors aren't going to see you that much. Here's the kicker: when the doctor starts to report that you're doing better, then you might have a CDR. Why do doctors often report that people are getting better? Because they like to validate the work that they're doing on you. Because if they're working on you and you're not getting better, it's not a good situation. All right, so let me tell you about that a little bit. There are two groups that I worry about. There are small clinic doctors, and there are, let's call them programs. You can call them groups, you can call them clubs, but they're programs. There are programs that no matter what you say to them or do to them, they're always writing in your file, right? Dual diagnosis program, you got a drinking problem and impairment. You got a smoking problem and impairment. You got a bad smoking, like a crack problem and an impairment, drug narcotic problem. Dual diagnosis means you have a drug problem or an alcohol problem or tobacco problem and a disabling condition. In those programs, they are always writing out their notes about how you're improving by going to their clubs and their meetings and their group sessions and their this and their that. And it hurts you. It's not good for you. It's bad for you. And the reason it's bad for you is because it shows that medical treatment and or therapy and or notes and or prognosis and or diagnostic impression that they're producing, even though it's not doctorate level usually, they're showing that you have the capacity to improve from their treatment. That's not good. Because if you're improving, then you are no longer severe, which means you might be moderate, which means you are no longer impaired to the level required by the 5-step sequential process due to element 2 and element 3. Okay. So the clinics, right? The clinics. Clinic doctors are doctors who dream of working at a specialty hospital or dream of working at a specialty doctor's office or Clinics have doctors with great aspirations, right? It's like somebody who goes to law school but can't pass the bar. They have aspirations of being an attorney. It's like somebody who goes in to be a paralegal but doesn't go to school to be an attorney. They have aspirations to be an attorney, they only did the paralegal route because it felt more like, they wanted to do that route. Could be, they don't have the memory, they don't have this, they don't have the whatever. And I remember this. When I went to law school, I dated somebody who had perfect memory. She could read something and instantly memorize it. I was competing against a lot of kids who had that. So I had to work extra hard to remember all the long citations of each case that we had to remember. And we might need to memorize, 500, 600 citations for an actual exam. Some of the classes were easier. We only had to memorize 100 citations. Law school is not for everybody. In fact, it's not for 1%. It's significantly less than that. And I know a lot of people are like, I can do law school. 1/3 of the entering class after the first semester is kicked out. By the end of the third semester, the other third is kicked out. So you're only left with 1/3 that actually goes and takes the bar. And then not all of those pass it. Quite a low percentage actually pass that. So when they say to you about law school, go ahead and look to your left and look to your right. Those people will not be with you at the end of this experience. They're not joking. You lose all the coolest people in law school. Only the dorks, Marvel, excursions with 7.3 engines, those people pay law school because they don't go out on Friday night. They just work. Or they do go out, and I just, never got invited to those parties. I did get invited to some, but then I didn't go out and they didn't keep invited. It doesn't matter. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the next thing. Let's check out these questions. I filed my app in March and have turned in all the forms. What should I expect because of the COVID-19? I don't see any info on the SSA site that has much help. Yeah, I know their website is not full of any information that is useful at all. I don't know who writes their website. It's weird. It's like all the things you'd want to know, they don't include. It's just weird. I don't get it either. Here's what you need to know about the COVID situation. If you filed in March, right? January, February, March, April. So we're a month into it now. You're going to take about another month and a half to 2 months to get to DDS. So right now your documents are with the local FO, and then basically translating after that, you'll go to DDS. Those are the baby judges who will adjudicate your claim. And they're not going to be able to go ahead and send you to CEs, which are those medical appointments set up with SSA doctors. Remember, we have to be polite. The SSA doctors are not SSA doctors. They are independent medical experts who will see you usually for about 15 minutes, are paid for by the SSA, and know exactly what to write to show exactly if you meet the lighter sedentary requirements for vocational work and therefore are not disabled. Aside from all of that terribleness, this is terrible, right? They are, of course, independent, totally neutral human beings on earth, even though the majority of their practice completely and solely usually revolves around doing medical expert appointments via consultative examinations. They haven't seen a person outside of that practice for the purpose beside the SSA sending them their clientele for probably usually around 10 years, which is how it usually pops up. You won't be able to see those wonderful people because you can't get into their office, which means that you have to have recent medical treatment in order for your claim to go forward, because then they won't need to send you to a medical expert. So, Dime Daryl, what you want to do is is that right? No, Angie. What you want to do is Angie Northcutt. Oh, that's an awesome last name. Oh, that's a good name. Oh, Angie Northcutt. Oof. That's like a James Bond name. Oof, 008, Angie Northcutt. So what that means is that you basically need to have medical source treatment for each one of your impairments. That's, the severe ones. If you've got like a nodule on your ankle and you're sort of okay, it's not okay. But if you have like severe depression, that you have to have recent medical treatment, because otherwise they can't push your claim forward unless they have a medical decision. Otherwise, it's just going to sit at DDS. Okay, so that's what's going on with COVID. COVID's slowing everything up because you can't get to a medical appointment. I'm getting texts from Bruce, my tree guy. That's good. Pictures I can't share on Facebook or whatever we're on, YouTube. All right, so with that said, some people have a tree guy, and their tree guy is hilarious. With that said, let's check the next one. How do I can scroll up like this? Thank you. Excellent. Perfect. let's see. I am hoping to pass the first time. I don't include severe congenital stenosis with my cervical. Okay, so spine, upper spine, thoracic, middle spine, lumbar regions requiring surgeries on all. Don't forget, Angie, to talk specifically about the lumbosacral area. Okay, so a lot of people think like here, here, and here above the hips, but don't forget to talk about the hips when you're talking about back issues. Because of the 1.03 base Social Security disability listing, the musculoskeletal listing allowances, 1.03, weight bearing, you can't sit well, you can't stand well, you can't walk well. Weight bearing, hips are really one of the most important functional areas of your body that people with back issues just kind of forget, because they talk about, they're like, hey, you know, I've got this shooting pain. It shoots from my back to my legs. Well, what's in between your legs and your back? It's your hips. And your hips are something that can really restrict your sedentary, really restrict your walking, standing, sitting, laying down functions. And if you can't walk, sit, stand, then guess what? There's no job in the national economy that you could do. So now, look, the big thing that they're going to be looking at with a claim like this is, okay, what surgeries have you done? What pain meds are you on? If you're not on strong pain meds and you don't have failed surgeries, do you have a sling? Do you have orthopedic shoes? Do you have a brace? Do you have a blah, 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 blah. All these little details that they're going to want to know about your particular claim. Angie, if you could, I know that might be your real name. If I do, for the past 2 years, I've been seeing neurosurgeons. Perfect. Awesome. So the next thing I would say is, okay, cool. Do you have, for example, whatchamacallit, burning my trunk, buttocks, and cannot sit for more than bingo. Cool. All right. So what I need, Angie, what you got to do is go to a doctor and get them to write out what's called an RFC. If you're not sure what an RFC is, it's a residual functional capacity form. Get them to write out how you can't do sitting for more than 10, 20 minutes, can't do standing for more than Yeah, I just got a little blip there from Cheyenne. I could probably do one more call if you want from anybody about doing hearing questions. But in between now and doing that one more call, it'll be a really short call. I'm going to go ahead and answer real quick Angie's situation. Get an RFC. Here's what you've got to show with the 5 elements of disability. Like here's like the stuff. And then that's a good point. Getting your old boss to say that you spent too much time, too long of breaks, going to your old vocational people and saying, okay, cool. What accommodations did I have? And can you write out a letter on a 795 form, 795 statement of claimant, explaining why I couldn't do the job like everybody else. I had accommodations which allowed me to do the job, but then I took too many accommodations and they couldn't keep me, working, yada, yada. That's why I got fired. I had so many days off, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what that means is that basically you want to show via a doctor that you have severe impairments that limit your ability to do functional tasks, RFC, residual functional capacity form. If you can show that you can't sit, stand, walk for more than 20, 30 minutes, yada, yada, you can't walk more than 100 feet, you can't stand for more than what, if you can show those things, then there's no job in the national economy in the DOT, Dictionary of Occupational Titles, that they could give you, and you'd be given a vocational allowance. I don't know how old you are. You may have put in there, I'm bad at scrolling up. So bottom line is, let me know. If you're over 50, start looking into a vocational or a grid allowance. For a vocational allowance, write down the jobs you used to have. Don't go over the top with the type of managerial jobs you had. Make sure you actually did managerial jobs. What is a list of unemployability evidence? Right. So unemployability evidence. So for example, how many times you missed work, how many times you were written up, what accommodations you were given, how many times you had to switch jobs, how long were the jobs that you actually interacted with, did you actually spend enough time with those jobs to learn those jobs, did those jobs require education that you didn't have, did those jobs require education that you did have, did you utilize the education, did you actually do the job as specified in the DOT, did you have to utilize, okay, so let me give you another example. Like if you had to have a walker, right? If you had to have a walker, you couldn't do most light, medium, heavy, or very heavy jobs because they require you to carry stuff. And if you got a walker, you got to put both hands on the walker, which means that you can't carry stuff. You can't carry a piece of paper. You can't carry a phone, whatever. Okay, so that's an example of something that would be unemployability evidence, right? Okay, it's 49. So I would argue and negotiate with the judge to go ahead and get you into the 50 to 55 category. However, that uses what's called the nuclear rule, which is scary. What is the nuclear rule? Not every attorney is willing to use the nuclear rule. The nuclear rule. The nuclear rule. The nuclear is basically a rule that wipes out all of your back pay so that you can get found disabled if you don't have enough evidence going back in time to show that you were severely impaired. If you do, we can show you were severely impaired, you know, when you were 48 or 47 or 49, whatever. But if you don't, right, then we might have to use what's called the nuclear rule, which is where you're found disabled very close to the date in which, you know, you turn around 50 years old. In that case, we wipe out the back pay. Most attorneys are not super kosher with using the nuclear rule because they want to get paid. I don't really care because I have so many claims. I'll get paid from some. If I win it, I win it. You're going to refer more claims to me. You put a positive review online that says, you know, so that's just an option for a 49-year-old that might come up. And I just want to promote this idea to you. This is not something attorneys, I just want to put this idea to you. This is not something attorneys will tell people because it costs them money. But I want you to know this. Attorneys collect from back pay and retroactive benefits for SSDI. For SSI, it's just back pay. If you wipe out your back pay, but you're found disabled and you get a check every month, you get health insurance for the rest of your life, that's better than trying to get more back pay, right? Maybe being a little greedy, right? Going way back and then losing the claim in total, right? Because then you have to go to appeals counsel, wait even longer, maybe change the AOD upon a full remand, yada, yada, yada. It's better to just win the claim and lose a year of back pay or a year and a half of back pay if it looks like one of those claims, you know, where you're 49 and it might be iffy on the medical evidence. Now, I don't know. You could have amazing medical evidence. You could have incredible medical evidence, right? I don't know. So let me see what's going on here. I'm applying for VA unemployability. I had a PA write a letter for me. Also, I have 13 pages of forensic vocational report. I have not had a job in 6 years. Okay, cool. But now watch. What jobs did you have? Who's currently paying for you to exist? If you don't have a job for 6 years, my brain, if I were an administrative law judge, would immediately go to, well, who the heck's paying for him to live? Does he have VA benefits? Does he have some sort of other benefits? Is his mom paying for him? Is his wife paying for him? Is it one of these gigs where he just doesn't have to work? I see a little bit of bias usually towards females because of the stay-at-home mom gig. And then the question becomes, well, she's not going to work. She wasn't going to work anyway, so she's a stay-at-home mom, and she's just trying to get a check. So that's something to watch out for as well. Okay, so let's see what the next thing is. Perfect, Angie. Excellent. Let's see. Danja. If I understood you correctly, the live stream cut out for about 15 seconds. Did you say Trump wants more CDRs sent out? And me being 52, can I expect the short form? I'm sorry to ask so much. No, that's totally fine. So, yeah. Okay. Now, look, it's not totally Trump. Trump's like the head of the country. It's more like the commissioner through Trump put this through. So before people are like, the reality is the commissioner is the person in charge of the Social Security Administration. We had a switch over, and the new rules that they're trying to promote, which get attached to Trump because of that, are basically rules that show that they're going to now look at people who are in between that. They should have a CDR in 1 year and they should have a CDR in 3 years. They're in between those two wordings, right? Should we give them this? Should we give them this? So they give them this, one every 2 years. At 50 to 55, yeah, expect one CDR. At 55 to 60, maybe one CDR. At 60 to 65, you ain't getting a CDR. It's not happening. No. Is this a big deal that they're adding this? No, it's not. You were either going to get one as a 1 year or a 3 year anyways. So it doesn't really change anything. It just adds another statutory language that they can go ahead and check in with you in 2 years as opposed to in 1 year or 3 year. So it's not it's not a big change. It is a change, but it's not something that's really going to change how the whole system works. It might make it might kick people off a little bit sooner. It might, because if they weren't going to get it in 3 years, they're not going to get it in 2 years. Might kick more people off. But remember, the people they're kicking off are the people who are not really impaired under the 5-step sequential process. So that just means more money for those individuals who actually are disabled. However, and I don't disagree, that they do get a little kickoff happy. And remember, too, if you haven't looked this up, please look it up. There's not 5 elements as part of a CDR. There are actually 8 elements as part of CDR. So go look up the 8 elements that make up the review for a CDR. Perfect. Thank you, good sir. What happens in a case where a doctor recommends steroid shots, but you're allergic to steroid injections, age 4? Oh, man, that's easy. Just get another letter from another doctor that says you're allergic to them, and you got basically a golden ticket there. They are going to want to look into. Now, I don't know. Did you say where the steroid injections were? No. It depends on where the steroid injections are, and it depends on what your impairment is. It could be a situation where surgery is not a big deal, in which case the SSA is going to expect surgery. Threatening, in which case they're not going to expect surgery. So through that process, you have to kind of look at it and say, oh, I'll wait till it reconnects. Perfect, it reconnected. Throughout that process, you have to kind of look at it and say, okay, is this where the SSA is going to expect that I'm going to have surgery instead of these steroid shots? Or is this a situation where, I could be injured, I could be, for life, not the same person I was, therefore, ergo, I should not have that surgery, and the expectation is not that I would have it in order to be found disabled. So just look into it in that regard. Let's see. Okay, cool. Hazy, so question, do you think SSI recipients will receive stimulus checks, or is it never, ever going to happen? Okay, so first, let me give you a premise. I, as a business owner, have applied for everything. PPP, the 10,000 thing, my, being a human and not, whatever check, that everybody was getting 1,200. I'm not going to get that because I make too much, but I might get a really small amount of that. I have gotten $0. But I will tell you what the statute says, but I make no promises I make 0 promises as to what the government is actually going to do here. SSI recipients are supposed to receive, along with SSDI recipients, the stimulus check, the full 1,200. When you will see it, there are many things I cannot answer. I cannot answer how to get to Narnia. I've tried. I don't know. I cannot answer, what we're going to do about Canada. There's so many things we could do about them. I just, I'm not sure yet. I don't dislike Canada. I'm just, I don't know how to answer that because the rule is you're supposed to get it, but I haven't gotten $1 yet from any program at all. At all. Not my personal ones, not my business ones. I haven't gotten $1 for any of it. And I was sitting there at Chick-fil-A today thinking like, Now, let me go ahead and see the next question. Do you think is it okay? Yes, you will get a stimulus check if they ever send it out. You might get forgotten. Any advice on how to expedite stimulus checks for SSI recipients with direct deposit and also to IRS non-filers? Okay, so you can, the SSA does not want you calling in about the stimulus checks. You can send a request specifically to the IRS to see if they're processing your claim. You can do stuff. You can check in. You can even send a request to your representative, as in your House rep or your senators. I haven't gotten it yet. What's going to happen now? And they can send a thing to the agency trying to figure out where it is. You can do things. But there's so many millions of people they're supposed to pay. And you would think with the SSI people, it's like, everything's on file already. You just, press go. They're having a hard time. It's like when they set up the, the Obamacare, the healthcare, .gov. And that internet website didn't work for years. It wasn't working right for years. It got better quick, but for a while, it just, had some major issues. And then they got it working better. And then the servers went. It was a whole big yada yada. All right, so let's see. I did the non-filers form and got my papers checked. Good, very good. Very pleased to see that. Lumbar and cervical spine. Okay, yeah. If you're lumbar and cervical spine, there's no expectation that you're going to have to do surgery, because if you do surgery and they screw up your spinal column for a neuro situation, then you could potentially become a unique individual, right? There's no expectation that you would do that surgery. Shots are off the table. Then you're looking at therapy and non-traditional medicine. I know the Narnia. Well, finally, somebody's got to figure it out. Let me tell you. Let's see. SSI recipients are, like you say, already in the system. It should be. Yeah, it should be effortless. It just should. The phrasing "stroke a check." They just, their pen broke a couple of times after the first checks they issue. I don't know what happened, so I don't know. Okay, so we are now at 10:02. I know we started a little bit late. Do you guys have any other questions for me before I go and get to? Oh wait, I can't actually. I have to. I forgot to do something. I don't have an official sponsor, but there are people that sell me things at a reduced rate, certain things that I like. And one of those guys who's not an official sponsor, but he is a quasi-sponsor, is this guy. All right, so you know how there's that brand out there, and I'm not going to say the name, that's selling like, mythical creature for men soap. I got packs of it over here, but this guy sent me super cheap all these bars of soap. And it was incredible. So this is kind of like our first sponsor. And since my birthday is on Saturday, for the first time, I'm going to be doing a legal video about what lawyers should know if they want to start to learn how to do boating. Because I made every mistake in the book. If I were doing that with small aircraft, every mistake. I made every mistake. When I went boating for the first time, I didn't have a line, which is just a piece of rope. It's a rope. I didn't have a single line for that puppy. I made every mistake you can when doing boating, and I'm going to show you guys the answer and how to fix every single issue that I had while learning how to boat, because I made such horrific mistakes that I don't want you guys to have to go through that as well. All right, guys, I'm going to catch you later. I'm obviously getting attacked. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful night. Stay healthy, and thank you so much. All right? All right, later. Don't get up on me. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, I got to... I'm at the... Okay. Let me... Hold on. There we go. Okay, there you go. Perfect.